PHNX Suns pregame show brought to you by our friends at the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you know whenever we are live. I'm Lindsey Smith here with Saul Bookman. And Saul, how you doing today?
I'm a little sore.
Same.
From yesterday. Go-kart racing was very brutal.
Yeah, shout out Octane Raceway for having us for our company meeting. We did some go-kart racing, and it's so funny because everyone in the company is sore, but in a different area of their body.
Yes.
Like mine, like right under like my armpit is so sore.
Mine is just my tight hips because I have the worst hips in the world. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Also,
that was so fun.
Before we do go on, I want to give a special shout out to Tracy Esposito. It's her 40th birthday this week.
Aw,
And that's why Espo's not here. So shout out to Tracy. We love you guys.
Happy birthday, Tracy. Hope you guys are having fun. Well, we've got Game 3 on our hands tonight of the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. A chance for the Suns to take a commanding 3-0 lead on this series. You feeling good about this game?
I feel really good. I feel like the sports book and other peeps aren't feeling quite as optimistic. So I don't know if I'm just looking at things with rose-colored glasses, but we're going to break it down, and I feel really good about the Suns' chances. If you don't feel like the Suns are going to win tonight, I feel like you should be the one that I should say is smoking something, because I feel like whatever I'm smoking is legit, and we're good to go.
Yeah, also, happy birthday, Chris Paul. I think that's going to be a big factor in tonight's game, too. Yep. You don't want to let down the leader of your team or one of the leaders of your team on their 37th birthday.
No. And actually, in DraftKings has a special deal, which we'll get into here in a little bit as well, for Chris Paul's birthday that I think everybody should take advantage of.
Wait, there's a special deal for Chris Paul's birthday?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how exciting. Yep. All right, so a lot of the conversations throughout the first round of the playoffs was adjustments on both sides, right? Pelicans and Suns. But I feel like more of the conversation for this series should be adjustments on the Mavs side of things. So what kind of adjustments do you think we might be in for here in Game 3 from the Mavs?
Well, I know for a fact that they asked Michael Jordan if he still had some game left. Scottie Pippen. They asked if they can trade for Steph Curry mid-series, but none of those exist. Really, honestly, the best thing that they could possibly do is just hope for a little bit of help from their collective parts. They've had Kleba. They've had Finney-Smith kind of go off, but not as a collective whole. They're going to need some more guys to step up. Even Bertans has stepped up. I mean, I meant Bertans, not Finney-Smith. Bertans had a pretty good game. If they can get two of those guys firing on all cylinders at the same time, and maybe a little bit of help with Jalen Brunson on the offensive end, and Luka do what he did in Game 1, then they have a shot to win a game. But you're asking for a lot.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that happens when a team goes and plays at home is the role players tend to play a little bit better than they do when they're on the road. So if they can get some of those role players to really step up their game here at home in front of their hometown crowd, then maybe there'll be an opportunity to, if Luka does have a night like he had in Game 1 and 2, more so Game 1, that they could potentially edge one out on the Suns. I still don't think that happens personally, but I think Jalen Brunson is somebody that the Mavs should try to get going and get going early, because we saw in Game 2 that the Suns kind of forced, I know it's the game plan for the Mavs, for Luka to have the ball majority of the time and take majority of the shots, but the Suns also kind of forced him to do that to wear him out earlier. If the Mavs can find a way to get Jalen Brunson going earlier and use him as a legitimate scoring option like they saw in the first round of the playoffs, then that'll make this game a little bit closer. But I do think that's going to be a little bit of a struggle, because we've seen Devin Booker also put the clamps down on Jalen Brunson. So it's not an easy task at hand by any means. I know coming into this series, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe Devin could be the pigeon for the Suns. And I'm like, no. If you genuinely think that, you just haven't been watching enough Suns basketball over the last few years to see that Devin is a really solid defender.
Yeah, there's no pigeon on the Suns.
No.
There just isn't. Like, everybody on the Suns can play legitimate, solid defense. Maybe not to the level of Mikal Bridges, but Mikal's a unique bird in itself. Like, see how I did that? Bird, pigeon. And so there's not one guy that you can identify to go at. I know that the Mavs have tried to isolate Chris Paul, but even Chris Paul's got that old man strength. And for the taller guys, it's hard to get around somebody that's shorter than you by that drastic of a difference, because you don't get the leverage. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Dallas Mavericks do. Listen, they have to shoot the lights out. Luka's got to play better on defense. I don't know if those two things can coexist at the same time because, as we talked about, everything runs through Luka.
Right, which, I mean, that's remains to be seen. We'll see if there's an adjustment made there for the Mavs here in Game 3. A couple things coming from the chat. Nana Me's Egg said, I'm expecting the Mavs to punch us in the mouth tonight, but I think we will still win. I do think there's something to be said about the fact that they are down 2-0 in this series. They're back at home. They're playing with so much, what's the word I'm looking for? They have to have so much determination in this game.
They're desperate.
Desperate. Thank you. They have to play angry. They have to just like lights out tonight. All the effort that they can possibly muster up in this game, I think they have to do it because if they fall 3-0 to the Suns, there's just no coming back from that. You know what I mean?
Sorry, there's UFC fighters here in the building. They're over here getting the shout out and all the love. So
that's right. We are at the
crazy.
Ainsworth in downtown Phoenix. Yeah. There's still time to come hang out with us if you want to watch the game with us.
This is the spot for the weekend
if
you're not around for sure.
Molly McCann and Kevin Holland are going to be here. I think Molly McCann just walked in. So
hey-yo.
There you go. So no, I agree. I think that the Mavs will come out on fire, but because this is what's going to happen. If the Mavs do not come out on fire, they will lose this game by 20 points because their only hope is that they can establish confidence in that first half, keep the crowd into it as you go into the third and fourth quarters, and give yourself a shot. If they come out slow and the Suns put the pedal to the metal, the Suns will taste blood in the water. They will taste blood in the water, and they will absolutely put the Mavs out of their misery.
Well, and that's something they've struggled with both Game 1 and Game 2. The Suns were the ones who came out hot. They got a big lead on the Mavs within the first 5 minutes of the game. We saw that both Game 1 and Game 2. So, again, another tough task for the Mavericks tonight because what we've seen thus far does not show that they're capable of doing that.
For sure.
So, it's got to be a huge mindset shift, I feel like, for them. Like, the mindset is going to be really big for them tonight as well. A couple other things from the chat. Charles mentioned it. Amanda mentioned it. Foul trouble. Charles said Cam Johnson out of foul trouble will be a difference maker. Amanda said DA in foul trouble. Expect him to be fully engaged in this game. That's something that I feel like, at least in Game 2, there were some good calls, right? Like, obviously, you're not going to have a game without you actually fouling your opponent. That one I felt like was a little bit out of their hands, though, on both sides.
Yeah, listen, for as many adjustments as we think that the Mavs are going to make, there's just as many things that the Suns are going to be able to do just by starting a new game. Mm-hmm. And that's foul trouble's the main one.
Right.
I mean, DA, JaVale, countless guys got like 3 or 4 fouls in the first half. And so that I don't expect that to happen again tonight. I think DA will play a much better game this time because he'll have more minutes to play a better game. And I just think overall there's just too much. I firmly believe what is going to happen is the Mavericks are going to readjust to Chris Paul and Devin Booker because of their performances the other night. And it's almost like they're going to go back to Game 1. And the Suns, if they're smart, are going to attack down low again with DA, with JaVale, and dominate them down low to where, I mean, the Mavs just got to throw their hands up and be like, we don't know what to do. We have no options. This is it.
Well, we'll find out here in about 25 minutes or so. We do have a question from LeMay in the chat. Is Torrey Craig okay? Because Torrey Craig is on the injury report for the Suns tonight. It's the only change on the injury report for the Suns. Our very own Gerald Bourguet is on a little bit of a vacation because his sister is getting married. So he was not at the pregame presser for tonight's game. He'll be back on Sunday, though, so don't worry. But Kellen Olson tweeted out on Torrey. We're talking about Torrey, not Dario. My bad. As far as I've heard, he's okay. I don't think there was a huge conversation about it. I do think that it must have been what we saw in Game 2. But if Monty didn't add anything to that conversation, I'm hoping that means he's okay. Or they're at least giving it more time to kind of just feel it out before they make any sort of announcement, because all I heard pregame from Coach was that he confirmed that he was out.
Yeah, I'm trying to see also there's questions about he is out apparently.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, but I'm trying to see if Hardaway Jr. is in. I've been scrolling and I can't find whether or not he's in or not. I know he's doubtful. But the last thing I heard, and this is from Brad Townsend, who's a beat reporter out there in Dallas, when somebody said, any idea when Tim Hardaway will be ready to play? He's at least 3 weeks away from being cleared to run and cut per Jason Kidd last week. So I don't think Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to play tonight. Listen, the Mavs team you've seen the last 2 games is the Mavs team you're going to see the rest of the way.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get into our next topic. Earlier today, Jason Kidd had some things to say about Luka Doncic, and what he said is, quote, "It's not just protecting Luka, he's got to participate. He's got to play defense. It's no secret they're going to put him in every pick and roll. Opponents did the same thing with Dirk Nowitzki until he participated and stuck up for himself." Now, this was a really hot topic on Twitter today, and I feel like the main buckets of reaction were either, one, if Luka is a good defender, then he shouldn't feel really any type of way about these words from Jay Kidd. That it should just be kind of like what Monty likes to say, a calling up of guys, right? Step up to the challenge at hand. Or two, it was, how can Jay Kidd have an offensive system that requires Luka to have a very high usage rate and then say he's not trying hard enough on defense? Or three, Jay Kidd is about to lose this locker room with comments like that, like we've seen him lose locker rooms in the past. Are you 1, 2, or 3?
I'm more of I just don't think Luka has the ability to play at a high level defensively. Mm-hmm. So while I agree maybe this could lose the locker room, I guess I would venture to say 3. But at the same time, I want to say you can't be all up in your feels. Like, you really can't, because number 3 is telling you, like, listen, Dirk Nowitzki, one of the greatest power forwards of all time, literally had this problem too early in his career, and he had to work at it. Luka, everything's come easy to Luka offensively since day one in the league. This is the point in time where he's got to get better defensively. He's got to go to that next level. Fuck, we've been watching Devin Booker do it for the last 5 years. Devin Booker was atrocious defensively his first couple years, but then he worked at it, and boom, here he is.
Yeah, I think for me personally, when I heard that quote come out, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. I do think a lot of it has to do with track record within that locker room specifically, and I don't know what that track record is. So my opinion is not necessarily knowledgeable, right? I'm not following the Mavs all season long like I am the Suns.
For sure.
But my initial thought would be that, all the conversation before this series was that Luka is a good defender. He's not a great defender, and we know that, but he's a good defender. So I would think it would be more taken as like, hey, I understand maybe he should have prefaced it with a little bit, and maybe he did earlier on in the conversation, that we understand you're carrying the load offensively, but you can't be a liability defensively.
That's what it is.
And that's what I kind of understood it as. But I do also understand that Luka does have a very high usage rate, and it is really, really difficult to have that high of a usage rate and play really solid defense. But again, I don't think that rests solely on Luka. Like, Jay Kidd then needs to come in and find a way to get other guys involved more.
Yeah, he does. He absolutely does, and that's part of coaching. But at the same time, like, you're using them offensively at a 90% usage rate, and the Suns are very, very smart in isolating Luka and making him work on the defensive end relentlessly. Because, listen, we've seen 2 games now. If Luka is not on, that team has no shot. They have no chance.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson ain't going to do it.
Well, he did have he averaged pretty good numbers in the first series when Luka was out.
But that was the Jazz. And the Jazz are a dysfunctional mess. The Suns are not the Jazz. It's a completely different animal, and that's why it's such a hard task for Jalen Brunson to get going. He's not getting free looks. He's not getting open shots. He's going up against solid defenders. The difference in the Jazz series is Donovan Mitchell plays no defense whatsoever. And so he was able to cut free and get loose and do what he needed to do. The Suns don't have those guys on that team. They ball out all the time. Mm-hmm. So,
all right. So I just want to go into this a little bit more and break down your thoughts on why each of these buckets could potentially be why so many people had so many feelings about these comments, right? So we'll start with the fact that like you said, and we talked about this already, the offensive system requires Luka to have the ball in his hands and to carry that load. Is there a possibility that they could pass some of that off and still be successful, or do you think the skill level is just not there right now with this team?
They just don't have a talent around them. Like, honestly, like, they don't have playmakers around them. They got guys. Jalen Brunson's decent. He's about as decent as it gets, but nobody else. Everybody else is more of a spot-up shooter and not really so much of as a playmaker, and they need playmakers to surround Luka. And so that's why that'll never happen. That won't happen in this series, that's for sure.
Okay,
They can try, but it ain't going to work.
I mean, do you think they should at least try at this point? Like, is there?
They probably
or do you
will.
just hope that Luka can carry it?
I think they'll probably put the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands the majority of the time to try and alleviate some of that pressure. But then you're taking points off the board because now you're risking, the Suns preventing Luka from getting the ball in the first place, and you don't. It's just it's a double-edged sword.
Okay, so if Luka continues the high usage rate we saw in Game 1 and 2. Is there a way for him, do you honestly think there's a way for him to dig deeper and be able to find the energy to play better defense?
I mean, the great ones always find a way. They always find something in them. Listen, and he's at home. He's going to be charged up. There's going to be a lot of emotion at times through the game. So I'm sure he's going to give them listen, tonight, if the Mavericks win, it'll be Luka's best game of the series by far. But I still expect him to have his best game of the series and them still lose.
All right, and then 3, J. Kidd is about to lose his locker room. Do you genuinely think there should be fear of that with this team right now?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Listen, it's okay to go after the superstar. Superstars should be told when they're effing up, and when they need to step up their game. And I don't think he was egregious about it either. He just said, hey, listen, compare and contrast. I've seen this before with my own eyes. I played with a guy that was struggling defensively. He turned it around, and then he got better, and the team got better, and we won a championship. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And if people are going to get all in their feels, they're just way too sensitive about it. It's okay to call them out.
Okay, so I have a few things to share real quick with you. We got a super chat from Ray Blaine. Thank you so much for the super chat. Said, Chris Paul will put his foot on the gas in this game. It's his birthday, and I think the team will play that much harder to make number 37 a special night. Love your coverage, pre- and post-game. Go Suns. Thank you so much for the super chat and the kind words. We appreciate it. And then the chat is still having some comments about Tim Hardaway Jr., so we mentioned that. So I've got an update for you from the NBA itself. This is the portal where teams they're required to submit injury reports and updates on players per the NBA rules. And as of the very last time they shared an update with the NBA today, Tim Hardaway Jr. is out. So that doesn't mean that there aren't conversations happening about him being able to come back at any certain time, but just kind of a disclaimer for tonight's game specifically, he is out.
Yep.
So that's per the NBA and the Mavs themselves.
Cool.
All right. With all the talk that has happened in the last 36 hours of Chris Paul targeting Luka in Game 2, Jason Gallagher of the Old Man and the Three with JJ Redick podcast tweeted out today, CP targeting Luka takes me back to one of my favorite pod moments where JJ calls Chris out for his relentless pursuit of finding the matchup he wants. Here is that clip.
That's an example. You're manipulating possession. You're going to find, if you know the other team's switching, you're going to find the matchup. You're going to hunt. You might run 5 different ball screens until you get the 5th defender that you want.
Why the hell not? When we ran floppy, right? Every time I ran floppy, did you come off the left side?
Of course.
No.
Oh, no.
Well,
yeah, the left side.
You came off the left side.
To my right hand.
Exactly.
Yeah, to my right hand.
So are you manipulating, or are you just trying to get to the best spot for you to be efficient?
Again, I'm not saying that I didn't manipulate at times. My larger point here is that there were certain possessions that I manipulated.
Yeah.
Or I thought the game every possession.
Yeah.
But not to the level. You're a sick fuck, man.
I love it. I love
So
it.
within this conversation, JJ mentions that Chris Paul manipulates essentially the entire game compared to majority of players who just manipulate like certain possessions, right? And I think this is the same episode where I think Sickos came from. What are your thoughts on this? Before I share mine.
Like this is the way I view Chris Paul. Chris Paul is almost in a category of his own. I've never seen a player kind of maneuver around the game at such a methodical pace, because there's legitimately times in the first half of some games where you're like, does bro even want to be out there? Like, he's not even shooting. Like, what's he doing? It's just because he's just feeling it out. He's feeling it out. He's assessing. As Steve Jones Jr. said, he's data collecting. And you don't see players that are that cerebral very often. He's a rare breed. He's an absolute rarity in the game. Like, because he has to be. That's Chris Paul's athletic strength, is his brain. The way it works, the way he sees things, the way he can manipulate things, the way he maneuvers around the court, what he sees and can hold in his memory from the first quarter to the fourth to take advantage of. It is phenomenal. And when I say phenomenal, I'm going to say this. He has the most elite brain in NBA history. Nobody comes close. Nobody. And for that reason, and that reason alone, that's why I think the Suns will win a championship, because I just can't see a way that Chris Paul can't manufacture a win when it matters most this season, barring injury.
So I went back and I watched probably like 5 minutes or so before this conversation and then a few minutes after the conversation, just to get a refresher on like the full context of the conversation at hand, right? And one of the things that JJ had kind of mentioned was just like how manipulative Chris Paul is. And Chris Paul was like, I don't want to say he got defensive, but he was a little concerned because he was like, wait, are you talking about a people or what? And JJ was like, no, just like basketball, the game. But I think the reason why this is such an interesting conversation to watch, and if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do, is because I feel like the word manipulation has such a negative connotation in everyday life, which is fair, right? Like manipulating people is not cool.
For sure.
But when we look at it in the scope of sports, basketball, Chris Paul throughout this conversation, he mentioned like Connect Four or tic-tac-toe or chess. You have to have some form of manipulation if you are genuinely playing a step ahead or 2 steps ahead of your opponent. You want to force them to go to places that you know you can take advantage of. Like if I'm playing tic-tac-toe with you, I know if I start with a middle space, I'm probably not going to win that game because that's not my strategy. But if I start with a top corner, then I think I can force you into taking the spot that allows me to win. And why wouldn't you do that?
The woke version of this would be you're calculated.
There you go.
You're calculated.
Maybe calculated
you know
is
what I mean?
a better
Like
word.
it's the less offensive part of it, right? But it's all the same. You're moving pieces around to try and get your desired result.
Right.
It's both the same thing. And so, yeah, like I said, he's just such a phenomenal person.
And I think it goes back to your comments of him just having the greatest mind that we've ever seen in basketball. It's because when you are at that level of basketball IQ, certain players can manipulate certain situations and possessions. But if you have such a high IQ that you're able to manipulate games, like you can't say that that's unfair. You just need to say everybody else needs to step up even more when they're competing against a guy like that.
Agreed.
Like it's not unfair because it's not like he got a cheat code. He worked his butt off. He watches the game every single day. He dissects it. Like that's what he gets for all of the hard work that he has put in throughout his career. The same way that you could say the longevity of his career, because he's worked so hard to maintain his body. He's worked so hard to have this knowledge to be able to switch up his game to give him longevity. Like if anything, we should just be giving stars and ups to Chris Paul for doing that versus other players who maybe haven't done that, at least not to the level he has.
Like I said, he's a one of a kind guard. Even Stephen A. Smith said he is the best point guard in the league.
Yeah.
And that's mostly because not of his athletic ability, it's because of the way he thinks about the game and the way he moves around it. It's just like I said, I wish I had 10% of what Chris Paul sees and thinks of during a game when I was playing. Sometimes you get into a game and you're so locked into what you have to do, and what what your role is, instead of stepping back, seeing things at a 36,000 foot view while you're playing the game, and seeing who's not doing what, how are they matching up with this, how are they defending this, where are their weak points. It's such a hard thing to do, and it comes with age, it comes with experience, and it comes when you have the ability to be as cerebral as a guy like Chris Paul is.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk a little bit of gambling.
Let's do it.
Break it down for us all.
Oh, boy.
What do our friends over at the DraftKings Sportsbook
Right
app
now,
say about tonight's
the
game?
Suns, it was even earlier today, but now it is a -1. And you had asked the question earlier, what does it mean?
Right, so Nick Lutz on Twitter tweeted at us yesterday that Vegas odds had tonight's game at Pick'em all day yesterday. So I'm new to this space. What does Pick'em actually mean?
So,
and then why or what causes them determined to have that?
So since we're here and we're talking about DraftKings, let's bring in our expert from the Bet Show, the one, the only, Shane Diefenbach, the man behind the Mac.
What a beautiful introduction.
Get it out.
So Pick'em is very simple. It just means that both teams have basically the same odds on the money line to win the game or series or whatever it is. So -110 is usually what they settle at, because these books have to make money somehow. So they -110 means if I throw $100 and Lindsey throws $100 and we bet on separate teams, Lindsey would win $100 plus about 89, and I would lose my $100. So they pay out 89 and get in 100. So they're splitting the public. But yeah, a pick'em is just basically they have the same odds to win the game. I'm going to check right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook app what exactly the line is. It's still the exact same as it was on the graphic. The money line now is back to -110 for both teams, so it's back to a pick'em. I saw it switch to +1.5 about an hour ago for the Suns. The Suns were +1.5. They were dogs, and now it's back to a -1 on the spread. But yeah, it just means that it's a throw, it's a toss up.
And to verify what Shane said, when I placed my bet earlier today, I have the Suns at +1.5 today. So I feel really, really good. And we might as well go ahead and get into our odds, because I have a juicy one for everybody.
All right, tell us what you got.
All right, so on our betting, our DraftKings picks of the game, I have the CP3 special for his birthday tonight, which you can opt into on the DraftKings Sportsbook at +425. It's basically 37. It's a 35 PRA, which means points, rebounds, assists. So a combination of any of that has to be 35. Plus 2 steals. So that equals...
So the 2 steals has to be there no matter what?
Yes.
And that's 37.
That is 37 for his birthday. But on top of that, I also took a big gamble and parlay, which you can also do via the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and they'll reward you for it. I've got the 37, but I also have the Suns winning plus the spread.
Okay.
I have Cam Johnson over 10 points. I have DeAndre Ayton. This is probably the more shaky of the ones. Over 18.5 points. Okay. I have Devin Booker over 20 and Chris Paul over 11 and Mikal Bridges with 1-3. If that all should hit, I bet $20. I'll make $1,500. I feel pretty confident about that bet tonight.
I mean, fingers crossed for you. That would be awesome.
I hope so.
I got my fingers crossed for you. I took the safe route, kind of safe, I think. And same idea, betting on Chris Paul for his birthday. So I bet Chris Paul to have a double-double at a +100. So not the best odds, but also not bad odds. And then Espo has the Suns -6 alternative spread, right?
Yeah.
Alternate.
You can bet different spreads for different odds. So you can, if you think the Suns are going to blow them out, you can literally bet Suns -15 and get a higher payout. If you bet it.
Gotcha. And that's a +185. So if you're interested in that one. And then Gerald says Chris Paul to eat a cake tonight. I don't think he's going to eat a whole cake.
I don't think he's going to eat it.
But if it's a slice of cake, I could maybe see. There will at least be a
so
cake.
I just checked in with the odds makers. This prop is only for a bite of the cake.
Okay.
But it's +2,000.
I think that is...
That's still a tough one.
I don't think that's going to happen at all. Chris Paul is not about that life.
If it was just to the fact that there would be a cake, I would take that every day.
Yeah.
I know there's a cake in there, but whether or not he's going to take a bite of it,
yeah,
I don't know.
First shot is going to be Jay Crowder, 1,000,000%.
All All right, we're going to round things out real quick because we've got UFC in the house tonight. Also down here in downtown Phoenix, a lot going on in
The
downtown
Dbacks
Phoenix.
are playing up the street.
Mercury, first game of the season. So fingers crossed, good luck to them.
If you haven't seen the shirt,
It's so
Shane, do we
dope.
have the shirt? Do we have the shirt to upload? No?
We'll have it post game if we
Yeah,
don't have
the
it
shirt
here.
is
And it's on our
fire.
Twitter. Yeah, the shirt is amazing. So go check that out and give them a follow. Support them
Actually,
all
we're
season
gonna pull
long.
up we're gonna pull up the shirt here in a second.
All right, well, while he's
It's-
working on it, the question I have for you is UFC, right? So if we had Suns, Mavs players in a UFC fight, what would make a good matchup?
I would say I would want to see Mikal Bridges versus Dorian Finney-Smith.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely has the reach.
I just want to see two scrawny guys go after it.
If I were to say any single person on the Suns team that I would be like can win a fight, I would automatically pick Jay Crowder.
To win a fight?
Yeah, just like literally
Ooh.
any fight. I just think Jay Crowder is like he's a solid dude, and he has the mindset I think that it takes to win a fight. Like you have to have this certain like edge that's mixed with confidence. I think. I don't know. I think I would pick Jay Crowder.
You know what? Honestly, for just curiosity purposes, and because I think it would be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life, JaVale McGee. I don't care who he fights on the Mavs, but JaVale McGee fighting, I just think he would either completely knock somebody out just wildly, or he would get completely clocked. Either way, you're leaving with a surprise. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. Charles said Boban JaVale.
Ooh,
That would
I
be
like
an
that.
interesting one.
like
I would have a hard time rooting for that because I wouldn't want either of them to lose. So it would be a struggle on that one.
Sweet.
But yeah, there we go.
But we do have the shirt. It is here. It is here in all its glory. Let's go. This thing is absolutely insane. The GOAT. I mean, you got the X Factor, you got all the hoopla all over. I mean, it's just the most beautiful shirt I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really, that's like no shade to our shirts, but that's the dopest shirt we have.
It is.
It by far is the dopest shirt that we have available. If you haven't grabbed it yet and you want to, phnxlocker.com, or if you become a gophnx.com member, you can also grab a shirt for free depending on which option you choose, and that can be the shirt that you select to get for free. So check it out right now if you haven't. Pick one up. Be sure to be ready and get your gear to represent the Mercury all season long for those ladies over there as well.
Absolutely.
All
Hey,
right.
they deserve love. They're 3-time champions. The GOAT has been the MVP, but the Suns are searching for their first championship, and I feel like they're going to put another tick in that column tonight and take a 3-0 lead. Let's hope for the best.
Let's go. Fingers crossed. Go Suns. Thank you guys for joining us. You can hang out with us on Twitter throughout the game at PHNX_Suns. Or if you are a GoPHNX.com member, you can hang out with us in the members-only Discord. Don't forget, we'll be right back here after the game wraps up on our YouTube channel. So plan to come hang out with us. Until then, we'll see you later.
Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B. Always on the job, my team move like the mob. Turn the beat on, I throw it down like DA on the lot. Best combo since KJ, Marley, and Charles. If you squat, just sitting on the chat, get involved. Rhymes say it's got flavor. Known to shine greater, glide like